do I have to see him or no? I forget. Do I have to see him come back or forget? Rick. Thanks, Rick. Okay, we're ready to start. This is a regular meeting of the Montclair Zoning Board of Adjustment for November 15th, 2023. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the Township's YouTube channel, where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. Take an attendance roll call. Mr. McCullough.
Present.
Mr. Caulfield.
Here.
Mr. Church.
Here.
Mr. Harrison.
Here.
Mr. Vieira.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
And Miss Farwell.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. First, I'd like to welcome Ms. Farwell to the board. She's our new assistant planner. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, we have the minutes of the October 18th meeting that Richard emailed us yesterday. I don't have any changes to the minutes. Does anyone else have any changes?
Mr. Chairman, minor change on page 3, line 35. The board asked if about the lighting. Shouldn't it be the board asked about the lighting? Just
Okay. Any?
I guess remove the if. Page 3,
Yeah,
line
that's
35.
Line 35, take out the if.
Yeah, minor, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other changes? If not, someone want to move the minutes as corrected?
I'll move the minutes as corrected, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? And we have the resolution for the property at 176 Walnut Street. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have the resolution for the property at 23 Cornell Way. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then we have the resolution for the property on Llewellyn Road. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move that resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The first application is Philip and Andrew Orphanidis for property at 167 Harrison Avenue. This is an application for site plan approval and variances related to a proposed dormer addition to the third floor. The property is a corner lot at the intersection of Harrison Avenue and Titchener Place and is located in the R2 two-family zone district. The property contains a non-conforming mixed-use building with a commercial use on the ground floor and 2 apartments above, and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 5 in Block 1907. A use variance is required for the expansion of the use. Variances are also requested from Montclair Code Section 347-51 in that the proposed dormer addition is set back less than 25 feet from Harrison Avenue and Titchener Place. Front property lines from Montclair Code Section 347-51 in the proposed width of the dormer addition exceeds the width limit required to maintain the 2.5-story limit for the principal structures in the R2 zone, and from Montclair Code Section 347-51 to add a 36-inch tall guardrail to a portion of the existing second-floor flat roof to be converted to a balcony that is located less than 6 feet from the south property line. Are taxes in order? Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes, so property taxes are current, and proof of publication was received, and affidavit of service also received.
Try to come forward. And then, I guess, Mr. Sullivan, you want to explain the D variance we have before us?
I will as soon as I have the attention of the applicant and their professionals. So this is a application that involves a D variance, and there are 5 board members present, as you can see. A full board complement is 7 members. In order to get approval of this application, you would need 5 affirmative votes. So you'd have to get all 5 members to approve in order to get that D variance. So you really have 3 options. You can ask to be carried to a subsequent meeting, and hopefully there will be more board members present. You could proceed and at the end of your case, say, give me a vote, or you could proceed at the end of your case, ask that it be carried and get more board members. So it's up to you.
I'd like to ask the owner. You can walk over there, or he can walk up to you, or you could do it by smoke signals.
It was telepathy.
Sorry, so there's 5 board members, we need all 5 to vote in favor.
Right, and a full complement to the board is 7. And, obviously your odds are greater with 7 board members than 5. So you can proceed tonight and at the end of your case, ask to be carried for more board members, hopefully, or you could ask for a vote, or you don't want to start tonight and ask to be carried to a subsequent meeting.
Yeah, I think we'd like to move forward tonight, see what we can get approved, whether it's conditional or not.
Okay.
If you can come up to the microphone and just repeat,
sorry.
yeah. Even as you, push to talk if the green light is on, if it's not.
We would like to move forward tonight to see what's possible and if we could move forward conditionally or not.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we called the case, right? So I'm gonna swear in some witnesses. So the 2 gentlemen at the table, would you both raise your right hands? You swear to tell the truth of the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
State your names and addresses, please.
Samuel Bellamy, last name Bellamy. I'm a professional planner with Dresner Robin. The company address is 1 Evertrust Plaza, Jersey City.
And your
New Jersey.
license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Ephraim Gobriel, last name Ghobrial. I'm a licensed architect, and my license is in good standing.
And indicated the property owner is present, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to swear to Mr. Sharoon. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
Just state your name and your position with the township.
Richard Sharoon, zoning officer and planning technician in the planning department.
Okay, proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners. So as mentioned, this project is at 167 Harrison Avenue. It's block 1907, lot 5. It's a corner lot on the corner of Harrison Avenue and Titchener Place. The property is located in the R2 two-family residential district. So we are here seeking, now it's been determined, a D1 use variance. There's also several bulk variances we're requesting. With the addition of the dormer, we're increasing the building height. It goes from a 2.5-story building to 3 stories by your definitions. We're also requesting a secondary front yard setback variance and minimum parking space dimensions. We do have several existing non-conforming conditions. That's related to the minimum lot area, minimum lot depth, maximum building coverage, maximum impervious coverage, minimum front yard setback, and minimum side yard setback. So with that brief overview of the property location and the zoning, I'm going to turn it over to the architect to present the plans.
Let me just, if I could, I just want to make sure we got the relief that's being requested straight, because when I went to the notice, and there may have been some confusion, you've already articulated that you need the D1 use variance for that dormer, expanding a use that was previously granted by a use variance back in 1933. You also indicated that because you're going up to 3 stories from a maximum of 2.5 stories, that's a C variance, and you need that relief. You also identified the C variances relating to the front yard setbacks. My understanding from the memo is that there's also a 36-inch tall guardrail that's going to be added on the second floor roof. That requires a C variance. Is that correct, Mr. Sharoon?
Yes, that's correct.
And I believe that's the relief you need, but you also added that there's some parking space requirement, so what is that?
Correct. So we are formalizing the existing parking layout in the rear yard. So we're adding striping where there currently isn't any striping. We're introducing an ADA space. So with that, our spaces become a little bit tighter, 8 feet wide where 9 feet's required.
So is that, Richard, is that relief that's required?
That would be along the lines of a site plan waiver.
Okay, so that's an exception, it's not a variance.
Okay, design, yep.
And that's just for the width of those parking spaces?
That's correct.
And is
We're
it-
that full 19 feet
How many
long.
parking spaces are involved?
There's 3 spaces.
And all 3 need the width exception?
That's correct.
And just to note, the impervious coverage is an existing condition that's non-conforming that you're actually, in your plan, improving, doesn't require a variance.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Existing non-conforming condition.
Okay, after all that, I think we can go.
Great.
So the objective of this project is to really enhance the quality of living on the upper floor in that apartment, because the existing condition right now is that it has very low ceiling. There's not really enough space to occupy. It's very hard to use. It was being used to some point, and the owner could speak about this. So it's been occupied before, currently vacant, and the other objective is to also enhance the lot. Currently, the existing lot has 100% impervious coverage, and we're reducing that to about 93%. By adding some green, as you see here on the site plan. So we're adding a green area with some bushes here that will work as a buffer between the neighbor and the parking here, as well as adding and also, of course, striping the parking lot. Right now, if you go there, there are no stripes. It's not really clear where to park. So we're introducing striping and introducing a handicap aisle. We're also introducing a trash area. It will be fenced with wood fence all around, and it will be covered on top, and the trash bin will be sitting on a concrete pad. And we're also adding this little green area also on this, on this front. We're seeking a couple variances, like we mentioned earlier. One of the variances was the setback due to the dormer that we're adding on the top floor. And obviously, this is, we're going on, we're matching the exterior walls on this front, on the side street here, because of structural reasons and because, we would like to maximize the use of the space.
You can use the mouse that's next to it. You can literally click that.
So this is the proposed third floor that we're modifying. Right now, if you notice this here, this is the existing ridge line, which is in the middle, right in the center of the total width of the structure, and the dormer that we're building is on this end here, and it's just barely enough for living space, a kitchen area, and a bathroom. Before I could show you the existing. This is the existing condition here. As you see, this is the ridge here. This is the side walls, and that height is really not, it's barely enough for a living space. With that, that conclude my, my testimony.
Yeah, thank you. Please have a seat. Just want to understand some of the decisions that you're making in terms of what your thought processes are. So, your reference to the dormer is, how does that compare to other properties in the neighborhood? I mean, you're looking for permission to have essentially a third floor, and a full third floor is what we would refer to it. How does that compare to other properties that are in that neighborhood, to your knowledge?
I do not have any documentation for that matter, but to be able to, to add a living space or to make it livable right now, we tried with a pitched roof and it wasn't working. It's very hard. It's due to the geometry of the lot. Keep in mind, this is also an undersized lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very hard to work with it. And the only solution was to create that dormer,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty typical in these situations.
And is it, you said currently that space is unoccupied.
The owner could speak about that.
Sure.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address.
Philip A. Orphanidis, 2 Wildwood Ave, West Orange, New Jersey. So it's unoccupied right now. Currently, the roof line is, maybe you could show them a picture. It's this kind of like V roof line up there. So the majority of the space on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side is almost unusable.
Okay.
So it's pretty much a center unit right now. And so what we're trying to do is just on one side, expand it, not the whole way through on both sides, but just on one side to give future inhabitants space on that one side for both the kitchen and the living space and the bathroom. On the other side, it will remain the same.
Okay.
if you
So
grant that.
your vision is you would have 2 apartments? Is that one on the second floor and one on the third floor?
Yes, sir. It's currently 2 apartments,
Okay.
second and third floor.
Because looking at your drawing for the proposed third floor, I didn't see anything that referenced a bedroom or anything like that. I could see, where the appearance of kitchen, sort of a kitchen area and
Yeah, so that portion where he's reflecting on there is the living area right now.
okay,
And it's obviously that would be proposed. That's the bedroom right there, I'm sorry, and then the kitchen's on the opposite side. That kitchen would not be possible without the dormer. And that bedroom would not be fully usable without that side of it. That would be actually where the bed would go. It would be almost impossible to have the bed on the opposite side.
Okay. So distinct from the unit on the second floor, this would be a 1-bedroom unit as opposed to the second floor, which has 2 bedrooms?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you don't envision a family? I mean, it could be a couple, but
I think it would be a couple.
Yeah.
I think it would be a couple, maybe with a baby, but I think it would be a couple that would be living there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, in addition to that, the reference was made to ADA parking. What's the thought about that? Why is that identified as a need?
We thought it's a good, a good option to have. There are 3 parking spaces, and we have the opportunity of having the aisle, which could be dedicated for handicap.
Okay. So so in terms of if you have a person with disabilities, what would their access be to getting to the second or third floors?
Well, this is not really meant for the apartments, because right now there's no elevator, and it's not required to have an elevator. But so the thought that how we ended up there is that we had the three parking spots, and per code, usually between the first 1 and 25, you're required to have at least one handicap. There were none. It wasn't really identified before, so we thought it's a good option to have. As I mentioned earlier, our objective was really to enhance the quality, the overall quality of the structure and the entire lot. Keep in mind also, this is a corner building, so it's challenging. Also, I would like to go back to about the dormer. The main reason was having the dormer on that side was to be away from the neighbor, since we have the opportunity to be on the street. I do see some Google Map images, which it wasn't part of the notice, so I'm not too sure if you'd like to see them or not. We could submit them later, but I do see a lot of houses down the street with dormers to allow space in the attic.
Yeah. So the guardrail that you're proposing, what is the purpose of that?
So you're talking about the balcony, right?
Correct.
That's a balcony.
Yes, so you're anticipating that those balconies on the second and third floors will both be fully utilized?
I'm sorry?
That those will be fully utilized?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an option to have, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the design process, we wanted to bring more light into the unit, especially upstairs on the upper unit. And that wasn't there before.
Okay.
They barely had a window, and we added the larger window that could be used for egress as well as letting air and light in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, that space is used, it's cosmetic, and sometimes it's functional. That's why I'm sort of asking the question. I just want to understand what your vision is for that
It should
space.
be, yeah, it's an option to be utilized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, currently, there is a grocery store on the ground level. The intent is for that to remain?
Yes, they have, I believe it's 7 more years on the lease, so yes.
So you own that space as well? They're leasing to you? Is that?
We own that space.
You own that space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just in terms of your thinking, would you anticipate that would continue to be sort of commercial or retail space, or do you think at some point that first level, 7 years from now, could be converted into living space?
Campy's Corner's been there for as long as I can remember, living in Montclair when I was a kid. I moved to Montclair. My parents moved me here in 1987 when I was a year old. So I remember Campy's Corner into high school and college. So I as long as Campy's Corner wants to stay there, I think they're going to be there. So I think that's what's going to happen. So I don't foresee any change in that.
And to answer your question from a zoning perspective,
Yes.
if that was to be transferred into a residential use, we would have to be back before this board for another use variance for a 3-family in that
That's
case.
correct. That's why part of the
Yeah.
reason why I was asking the question, in terms of what the long-term vision is for this space. And it certainly makes a difference in terms of how we might think about that third floor. I mean, if at some point the first floor could be converted into living space, then it would raise a question about, well, do you really need to?
Yeah,
convert the
I don't
third
I don't see the first floor. I don't think it cosmetically would even look good for the town to have a residential space on the first floor. So I don't foresee any of us having any thought of trying to attempt to ask for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Couple questions. Does anybody in the store use the parking in the back?
I have not seen people use the rear parking lot. I don't know how it worked with the previous owners, but from my times being there, I've not seen people going in. I've seen them on the front and I've seen them on the side, but I've not seen them utilize the parking spaces.
Do the workers use the parking spaces in the back?
Again, I have not seen anybody utilize that back space other than the previous owners, and we've been there countless times since, and we have not seen anybody there. So.
Okay. On the greenery that you're proposing on the property line, is that going to be easterly facing? I think it
You mean the
is.
green along
Yeah.
the, between the parking and
Yeah.
the neighbor? Is it east?
I mean, since this is already conforming, right, do we have to go for the greenery there? Is it required? I mean, because it's like putting lipstick on a pig
must-
here.
I
I mean, that
wa-
little greenery on the corner there is also.
I wonder if it was a suggestion through the DRC review, possibly?
Yeah, that was in your planner's comment memo you received. I think the thought process was try to reduce the lot coverage as far as down as we can, while also putting a little bit of
I
screening between
understand,
the
but it's
properties.
already kind of existing.
Yeah.
Right.
The other purpose was the stormwater, the gutters would be directed toward
Yeah.
that landscaping
That's-
area, so it helps the runoff a little bit on the
I
property.
mean, the person who owns that property to the right, they'll be able to walk, supposedly able to walk down through the greenery on their own property, get to the backyard, it seems like. I mean, you'll obviously have the greenery on your side of the property, but you're not coming up to that house to the right.
I think there is a fence.
There is a fence
There's
in
a
between
fence?
that, yes, sir.
Okay. There's a fence, okay,
Yes.
not on these pictures here. Are you putting AC units into the building?
So we were going to do mini split. We found them to be more efficient
Yeah.
for whoever's living in each
So you
unit.
will-
They don't have to blow air through the house in every single unit. So if you're in your bedroom, you could heat or cool your bedroom. If your child's in their bedroom, they could heat and cool it, and they don't have to do the common space. So we went for something that's a little bit more expensive, but we thought it was more efficient.
And are those compressors will be outside in the parking area? Or are
Yes.
they on top of the house? Okay.
You don't
Do we
want
have-
them on the balconies.
On the balcony.
Yes.
On the balcony, okay. Like kind of a utility closet where they would stay? Okay.
Yeah, and these compressors are a lot thinner than the conventional ones because they're mini splits, so they're about that thin.
Okay.
As opposed to the larger ones.
Like suitcase sized? or-
Correct, and we only need 2 for the entire property because multiple mini splits can use 1 condenser, so that's why there's also efficiency with that too.
I got you. So let me ask you this question about the decks. We have the decks because this allows us to have the mini splits? Like, how did the idea of the decks come
I
into
don't know,
this
we
property?
thought it would be, we thought we would certainly use the deck for morning coffee or evening hangout spot, so we thought it would be kind of like a cool thing to do.
Okay.
I think it brings value to people. I think after COVID, a lot of people like being outside, and so it was something that we thought that would be interesting to implement in the project.
Okay. I mean, I see that maybe in like Miami and stuff like that, but just to overlook the building to the right is a little.
There's
I don't know.
something for everybody in
I
Montclair,
guess,
though, so
I
that's
guess.
what we're trying to do.
Are we-
And just
yeah.
back on that point, the building next to us actually extends further.
Yes.
And the balcony's inset on the building, so the balcony doesn't project out from the
But
building.
the
it
top
acts more
balcony
as
is
a-
actually going to overlook their roof, I'd imagine, so, in
Yeah.
that sense. Let me ask you this question. Are you going to replace the fence in the back where the parking area is?
Yes.
Is that- Okay, so
Yes.
you're going to maybe step it down a little bit when it gets to the street so people can back out? Just think about that for
We
that.
we could do that, yeah,
Okay.
with planters too, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I mean, obviously, we're getting the air conditioner, so we don't need that air conditioner in the window that's sticking out there now, because we'll have the mini splits and everyone will
Correct.
have theirs.
Correct, there's a window in the downstairs in the commercial space that will come out.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Access to the third floor apartments going through the back,
No,
No,
it's
it's,
through the front.
through that front door on the right.
Yes, sir.
How does the second floor, the second floor also?
So it's a walk up, and then there's a door for the second unit, and then they
I got you.
proceed, and then they have their own entrance.
Okay, so everybody
it's-
will use that front entrance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that rear entrance there is for access to the store, or?
That rear entrance is going to be capped. That is only, it's currently going to both units.
It
No,
goes
it's-
what, excuse me?
No, it's the
Which
the
end?
the stair in the back, it only, it goes to the back of the store,
Okay, so
right,
that's,
and the second floor.
okay,
floor
so,
plan.
okay. So that's utilized by the apartment on the second floor?
So it's a little bit, I mean, currently the existing condition right now is that the second floor only has access from the other stair. On the second floor, it's closed off. The second floor apartment does not have access to the stair. It's blocked off by a wall.
They only have access out the front.
Yes.
In the event of an emergency, there's only one exit?
So the balconies in this case would be used for egress as well. So we made sure we have large enough windows for egress, especially at bedroom. The third floor never had two means of egress, and the proposed work, because of the limitation on given the undersized lot, we sort of kept that one single entrance from the front, and we had in mind to make sure we have large enough windows for egress.
And that plan would pass construction code review?
We did our own code analysis, and we believe that it could, but, if the building department, says otherwise, and, after conversation with the building department, we think it's okay, we need a second means of egress, we will plan it accordingly.
Right. That might affect this process too, if that was to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I see it happening is by adding a fire escape from the
Right.
back, which we do have the opportunity, since we have that aisle. We have a 5-foot aisle between the building and the parking. So we do have some space there to utilize for the fire escape. I believe it's not needed. After doing my code analysis, I believe it's not needed, based on the rehab code.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the stormwater management, I guess there's a comment in the plans report that the roof leaders will be directed to the landscape area. So is that, you're okay with that? You will comply with that comment?
Yes,
Yeah.
we will.
Okay. Then I guess I noticed in the proposed plan that the storefront is out of scope. Is that correct?
Is what I'm sorry?
It's out of scope. It's not.
We're not touching yet
You're
the
not touching it?
storefront. The only thing that happened at the storefront was to reduce the amount of signage.
Yeah, that's another
Because there was a lot of signs, and we made sure that it was cleaned up.
Yeah.
It was all from the inside, so it was just easily cleaned up.
Yep. So as far as you're concerned, you don't have to provide a separation, a fire-rated separation between the business and the living area on the second floor?
I think the existing one the existing, I believe, has already fire rating, because we're not really touching the ceiling of the first floor.
Yeah, so that will be existing.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Just, partially struggling with the 1933 variance and trying to figure out where that was. Since it was 30 feet wide, it almost has to be the front addition. Would have been, because, I mean, there's also the rear, but that stepped back. They didn't comply with the limits, because assuming your zoning chart's correct, they're supposed to be 6 inches from the Titchener Street property line, and basically the building's on the property line.
Pretty much.
And that if it was the front addition, that actually sticks over the property line. It was supposed to be 8 feet from Harrison Avenue, and you're saying it's currently 6.96 feet. But my question, I'm not going back in history and not asking you to correct that. The work you're doing on for the third floor, is that also going to effectively be on the property line for the Titchener Place property line?
We're pretty much extending the wall, the dormer wall will be directly above the second floor wall. So in essence, yes, we are, we're following exactly the footprints of the floor below,
Would there be-
only at the dormer area.
Would there be a problem setting the dormer back 6 inches?
I don't believe this is going to affect, either negatively or, if anything, it will be maybe negatively because of the structural reasons, because we would have to load the wall and the roof on top of the joist, which will, it will be a lot more problematic, and we'll have to open up more floor, and we'll have to strengthen the floor. I'm hoping that it would be okay to go straight on the load-bearing wall.
The landscaped areas you're showing what appear to be bushes, are you planting bushes in those areas, or you don't designate, you just say green?
The intention is to have greenery. I don't believe did we mention?
Well, you show
Not-
little
not that-
circles
Not specific
that
type.
I would normally associate with a bush.
But we're open for the advice of, taking the advice of the town engineers on what species we could have. So we're open to that.
And the downspouts coming off of the rear of the building will be directed to the 2 green areas, is that correct?
Yes, that's the intention, yes.
Yeah, and I think, as I said at the Development Review Committee, I'm concerned about the size of the one where the stairs used to be, and maybe, and I'll leave it to you to talk to the township engineer, that maybe putting not a full dry well, but maybe having some gravel underneath, have 6 inches of topsoil with one area, and then having some gravel underneath that to have more of that runoff staying there versus running right off the parking area.
We're definitely open for discussion with the town engineer to make that work.
And I guess the other concern, as another board member mentioned, is the visibility backing out onto Titchener Place with the fence where it is, particularly since you're now moving the parking spaces further back. Any other questions from members of the board? Are there any members of the public who have any questions of the architect or of the applicant, since he's done a lot of the testifying? Okay. Do you want to give your planning testimony?
Sure. So we are asking for that D1 use variance tonight. The main test is particular suitability of the property. So as we have this resolution from 1933, there was an approved use for the commercial ground floor space and the residential. So really, the nonconformity is the ground floor commercial space. The 2 residential units is consistent with the current zoning that does allow for 2-family homes. So the mixed-use building with the ground floor commercial is the reason why we're asking for the use variance. As far as the expansion, that's really limited to that 3rd floor, the dormer that we're proposing. As our architect testified to, really the purpose of that is to create more habitable space on the 3rd floor. Currently, the floor-to-ceiling height, the narrowness of the unit really limits the space and the livability of it. So with that dormer, we're also introducing windows into the units, increasing the light and air for both the 3rd floor unit as well as the 2nd floor unit. So there is an improvement with respect to that aspect as well. From the site standpoint, a corner property that has historically, over 90 years, served as a mixed-use building, especially with the ground floor space as a neighborhood level retail grocery store type space. I think that is an appropriate location for this type of mixed-use building. to continue to operate as a mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and residential above. With respect to the bulk variances, we're asking, as I said in my introduction, by definition, we are increasing the floor to ceiling height on the third floor level. That increases it from a half story to a full story. So now we're asking for 3 full stories of building height. Overall, the height in feet is compliant with your regulation. Again, the dormer will increase the habitability and light and air into the units. I did visit the site as part of my preparation for tonight's testimony. There are other dormers along Titchener Place. Again, as a corner property, the introduction of kind of a peaked roof on one side and a dormer on the other side, I think that is consistent with the architectural style on the block. And with the dormer being on the street side, I think there's less of an impact on any adjacent properties, and really any shadow impacts would fall onto the right-of-way. So there's not any direct impacts to open spaces of adjacent rear yards or neighboring properties. From an urban design perspective, again, larger buildings on corner properties are generally accepted and appropriate, not only for the use, but for the height that we're introducing here with the proposed dormer. With the proposed dormer, we're also asking for the secondary front yard setback variance. Again, that's because we're increasing the vertical plane of the building, which is within the setback requirement. So that is at, hold on one second. That is at 0.9 feet, where 25 feet is required. The lot itself is only 30 feet wide, so really that does create a hardship on introducing those setbacks. This is an existing building that we're not changing the footprint itself, but really only introducing the additional floor area with the dormer on the side of the property. Again, I think the impacts are really on the right-of-way, and overall it does maintain character with the surrounding block. With respect to the waiver for the minimum parking space dimensions, again, we're asking for each of them to be 8 feet wide by 19 feet deep, where 9 feet wide by 19 feet deep is required. I think the parking spaces, the dimensions do allow for maneuverability into and out of the spaces. There is an existing curb cut that runs that entire Titchener Place frontage in the parking area, so each space does have access to either back in or pull in and back out without having to kind of get into a pinch point. So I think that does accommodate for the 1 foot reduction in the lot width that we're requesting. Again, the really narrowing the spaces is due to introducing an ADA space with that minimum striping along the building. So with that, I think that also allows for a safety benefit aspect here. It pushes the parking spaces further from the building, so further from the blind spot. They would have more visibility of any pedestrians, bicyclists, or vehicles turning onto Titchener Place. So I think overall the benefits there do substantially outweigh the detriments. The design waiver here is appropriate and can be accommodated. With respect to the municipal land use law, I do think this project advances several of the purposes here. As I said, I think this is an appropriate use and development of the property. And it's an appropriate addition to an existing non-conforming building, and it allows it to continue to operate as a mixed-use building with neighborhood-level retail on the ground floor, as it has historically. So that's consistent with Purpose A. Again, the 2 units are existing today. We're not increasing the overall number of bedrooms on the property, so that intensity is staying the same. We're really just increasing the habitability and floor area of the 3rd floor unit. So the 2nd floor unit will maintain 2 bedrooms. The 3rd floor unit will have 3 bedrooms, albeit a little bit larger space within the unit. So overall, the density is consistent with your 2-family residential zone, and is consistent with Purpose E of the municipal land use law. As I said, the introduction of the dormer is something that is consistent with the surrounding area and consistent with the streetscape. I think the improvements we're making to the rear yard area, as well as the dormer, will be like materials as the rest of the building. We're providing new windows, full-size windows to increase light and air, but that also does, in my opinion, improve the streetscape. So that's consistent with purpose I of the municipal land use law. Moving into the negative criteria, in my opinion, there isn't a substantial detriment to the general welfare here. I think the building itself is in scale with the surrounding area. I think the introduction of the dormer doesn't push it beyond the adjacent building, so it still will remain in scale. Again, I think the impacts will be along the streetscape, but from a visual perspective, it is consistent, and from a massing perspective, it's also consistent with the general surrounding area and residential homes down the block. I did have a chance to review your master plan. In my opinion, I don't see a substantial impairment to the purpose or intent of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. I think this project actually advances several of the visions, goals, and objectives of the plan. To read off a couple, I think this is consistent with Vision Theme 2, to provide for a mix of housing opportunities in Montclair, necessary components for a vibrant and diverse community. Again, these are a 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom unit as part of a mixed-use building, consistent with the density, and that does allow for that additional housing option for either existing residents or new residents coming in. It also advances Goal 1 to ensure a variety of land uses, to create a balanced mix of activities and vibrancy. Again, we're maintaining the existing mixed-use building here at the corner, leaving that existing neighborhood level retail and maintaining the units with better habitability and light and air to those units. With respect to the objectives, Objective 12 is to promote and protect existing residential character and form established neighborhoods. As I testified to, I think we're doing that with the introduction of the dormer. I don't think that is different from the architectural style of the surrounding area. And Objective 13 is similar to the vision of maintaining a diversity of housing types in Montclair. So overall, to summarize, with respect to the use variance, I do find the site to be particularly well suited to maintain this historic and existing non-conforming use on the property. With respect to the bulk variances we're asking for, I do think that the overall purposes of the project would substantially outweigh any detriments here. The design waiver, and I missed the balcony request. That balcony is in the rear property. It's adjacent to the building that doesn't have any windows on the side, and it's inset into the building. So I don't think the projection or the height of the balcony railing really is inappropriate here, and I don't think that would cast any impacts on the direct adjacent property. So with respect to the positive criteria, I do think that the tests have been met here. As I testified to, with respect to the negative criteria, I don't find any substantial detriment to the general welfare or impairment to the purpose of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. That would conclude my direct planning testimony, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions? No question. Mr. Caulfield?
This house has a dormer on the right side, right?
Yeah, we'll pull up the elevation in 1 second.
Seems to be associated with the stairwell.
Yeah, so the bottom left and bottom right images show that. So it's kind of introducing on both. It's going to be a little bit wider and not your like typical peaked roof on that side. And what that really allows is for those additional windows to provide for the living space in the front and the kitchen area in the back. So that's really why it's not a peaked roof versus more of that full scale side of the building.
Let me ask you this question then, on a planning aspect of it. This town, it seems to be somewhat, the height restrictions on the buildings is somewhat of a concern. And the dormers, I've been called into here and asking like that's going to bring in, not necessarily more height, because the height's already been established here, but it's going to make it more of a, 3-story instead of a 2.5-story.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, can you explain to me why I guess the plan or the idea of the dormers is not good for Montclair in the sense of like, we want maybe more housing or maybe an efficient housing on the third floor. Like, what's your story about that?
Yeah, so looking at your code, and there is a definition of half-story versus full-story, and it really relates to the floor area below the roof and the height you have. So dormers are accepted. It's to the level of the floor area and the height that you're providing is what is that balance between a half-story and full-story. So I think overall the intent of your zoning requirement to limit half-stories versus full-story is really an architectural style and trying to maintain that character versus like a straight wall up and vertical plane on all sides. I think the opportunity here as a corner property, it really is more where you're viewing the building from. So from Harrison Avenue, it does have that traditional peaked roof in the front. As you're coming down Titchener Place, not from the corner, from the other side, again, you're going to see the peaked roof. So it does maintain that character. Really where it differs in this case is directly in front of the building on Titchener Place is where it would be a little bit different than your traditional dormer, and it's a little bit wider, as I said.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Since we're going to have more tenants in there, are we going to have better lighting for the residents to come around to get into the building and stuff at night?
Yes, we did have more lighting all around the property.
Okay.
If I may add about the dormer. So the existing condition, as I mentioned earlier, the existing windows are not egress compliance. And part of that dormer is including a larger window on that side of the structure to allow for more light, more air, and obviously egress compliance windows.
Okay. Your thoughts on the awning of that store? Is that thoughts of redoing that awning for them, or?
Like it clean.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're going to have a discussion about that.
You're going to keep the siding on the building as well, the same siding?
We're going to replace the siding.
Okay. You're going to have siding on the new structure, or is siding not, what's your structure going to have?
Everything should be matched, so all the building is getting new siding, including the dormer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
Yeah. On the third floor that you're gonna make bigger, is anybody living up there now?
No.
Has anybody lived up there?
There was somebody months before we took ownership of the property.
Is there kitchen up there?
There will be a kitchen up there.
There is an
But there-
existing
there's an
kitchen.
existing-
There is
Yeah, there's an
existing
existing
kitchen.
And the tax records do indicate it's a 2-unit building. There's 2 separate meters. So it has, in essence, operated as a 2-unit building historically.
2 residential units?
Correct.
Okay, because you said, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, 2 residential units on top of the ground floor commercial unit.
Okay, so all you're doing is making it better
Yes,
with this dormer.
yes.
I'm a little concerned about the kitchen on the third floor with only 1 egress.
We will look into this deeper with the building department, and our goal is to really enhance the quality of life and safety. Hence the larger windows. We'll try it as much
Yeah,
as possible.
I understand all that, but what you're doing is you're adding bodies to a building, and there's no. I've seen this in other applications where you put more people in a building, but you don't give many exits. You don't make it easier for them. You make it just like you're packing them in like sardines. I understand that. But this building, you got someone on the third floor who could get trapped in a fire.
I absolutely hear you, but we are not adding really any additional rooms. There has been a kitchen, there's an existing kitchen, there's an existing area for sleeping in the attic space right now, so we're not really increasing the occupancy per se. What we're increasing is the amount of usable space for the same occupancy. And as I mentioned earlier, we tried as much as possible to bring it up to code, given the limitation of the lot being undersized and being a corner lot, being, built to the property lines. So we were kind of limited there. But we're open for discussion with the building department. We will make sure that we apply the codes and regulations. And if there is a requirement that we must meet, we are open for that, to be determined with the building department.
I have no other question.
Mr. Viera,
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
let me ask a question. The architect that I distracted myself. How close is the dormer going to be to Harrison Avenue?
It's the same setback as the.
I'm going to help you with that a little bit, okay? Can I add? Because I think that I'm getting involved in this a little late in the game, but the survey map wasn't distributed. It wasn't really made part of the plans. But we have a survey map that shows the existing front corner of the existing building, with the front corner. of
From
the building.
Harrison, are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that corner. The survey shows that 7.87 feet. Your architectural plan on maybe the next page shows a distance of the dormer setback from 2 feet plus 9.25. So the total setback from Harrison Avenue should be the 7.87 plus that 2 point, whatever that adds up to. when you-
About 10 feet.
About 10 feet, whereas the chart reported a setback of 6.96, which is the other setback from Harrison at the other corner, which is not related to the dormer. So that's to help them answer that.
Well, the reason we wrote on the
Okay,
chart.
guys, stop.
I'm sorry?
My question related to the 8-foot required by the prior variance, and you're more than meeting that, and that's all I wanted to know. So
Thank you.
unless you want to stick your foot in your mouth, don't.
I'm good.
Well, can I just follow up with that? As far as the front yard setback variance, because we do have to adopt a resolution. So with respect to the Harrison Avenue side, that dormer, we typically would say, what is the proposed setback from Harrison? Let's start with that.
So it's the 10 feet that we just calculated.
Exactly 10 feet, or how do we add that up?
We
Well,
could add it up exactly.
I'd have to work with a calculator for that.
Okay. So it's approximately 10 feet, and that's what's proposed. And what is existing there?
The
Something,
existing is
something,
6 point,
7.87 is
well, the
the,
least dimension.
Okay.
yeah, but that's not,
I'm just trying to,
Richard, so the setback to the corner of the building that's closest to Titchener Place is 7.87 feet,
correct.
and the plans show the dormer addition being set back an
An
additional
additional-
2 feet from.
An
that-
additional 2 feet, 9.25 inches from that 7.87. So take 2 feet,
Okay, so, Mr.
9.87.
Sullivan, I think for purposes of the resolution, we should say at least 10 feet,
yeah, it'll be slightly more.
as is proposed.
yes.
It'll be,
And what would we
almost
say is the
11.
existing number?
10.34.
Slightly more than 10 feet, right?
Yeah.
And then what about Tishner? What is the proposed setback from Tishner? 0
if we-
feet, 6
yeah,
inches? What is it?
virtually
Virtually
zero.
Zero,
Yeah.
okay. And what is existing setback from,
Same.
Same.
We're following the exact
The
line.
plans, and there's a question I was going to ask the planner because he misstated. The plans show it's .09 feet.
That's correct. It's slightly, it's slightly askew at the corner, the front corner on Tishner towards Harrison is 0.15, and the rear corner where the stairs are to be removed is 0.09. So this is virtually an inch, it's a,
Barely.
yeah, it's a property line building there.
And just, Richard, but the plans they submitted show that front portion of the storefront over the property line. The survey does not show that?
Oh, there's a little bump out there that, I wonder what that is. The survey does not show that. That must be not something that touches the ground. Let's see if the planning memo photos depict that. The survey shows a straight wall, and I did not see the building, and the photos don't help us. I see at the front corner of your plan on your site plan. Zoom in there if you can. Can you zoom in there? You see that kind of slightly buffered wall, little window area, the wraparound storefront window. That must be some type of maybe cladding or something on the.
Maybe a little bit exaggerated here. The roof, I see that the roof, just from Google images, the roof protrudes a little bit. Beside here, the window.
There you go.
It does protrude slightly. This looks like it's barely 2 inches.
Okay. That's a photograph that the gentleman is showing of that corner of the storefront, which has, I guess, some brick facade that might be
Some break, yes.
stylized. It kind of projects more than the siding next to it. That might have been added on. I mean, the survey map is the foundation wall, and some of this cladding, sometimes the additional brick or something could be bumping out. Say again? Oh, yeah. That's the survey map. You want to see that? Make sure we mark that.
You might as well. The survey, we're going to mark it as Exhibit A1. Can you just identify who it was prepared by and the date, including the last revision date?
Sure. Property survey map by Richard J. Hingos, dated August 9th, 2023.
Can I see that, Rick?
Yes.
Okay.
And just my question for you was, you had stated the setback on Titchener was 0.9 feet. In fact, it's 0.09 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I did misspeak. It is 0.09.
Are there any members of the audience who have questions for this witness? Do you have any further witnesses?
No, that would be it. But can we confer with the?
Answer questions. Are there any members of the audience who have any testimony concerning this application? Any statements, anything you want to say about the application? Okay, and then my next question is whether the applicant wants to proceed to a vote tonight or wait till we have more of us at our next meeting.
Can we have one moment to
Yes.
confer? Thank you. Thank you. We would like to carry to the next hearing. We would want to confer with the building department, get some answers on the secondary egress, and then we'll clarify some of these survey discrepancies that we had.
Okay.
So we would like to carry before the
And
vote.
you'll distribute the survey when you...
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this matter will be continued to our hearing on December 6th. There will be no further notice given. Do you give us an extension of time if necessary to decide on the application?
Yes, we would.
And for the members of the audience who all seem to be, other than the next application, affiliated with the application, there will not be further notice, and will be 7:30 this room. I'm not sure where you'll be on the agenda at this point, but we'll definitely reach you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll see you at the next hearing.
Might have been. Nice to meet you. Sure, we'll see you later. Take care.
they have to be more careful. They would have to.
The next application is out of Megan Downing and Stephen Frech for property at 10 Windsor Place. This is an application for variances related to a proposed addition to the second floor on the east side of the dwelling. The property is located in the R11 Family Zone District and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 8 in Block 708. Variances are requested from Montclair Code, Section 347-45C1, in that the minimum side yard setback of 10 feet is required from the easterly side property line, and the lesser side setback of 7.84 feet is proposed, and from Montclair Code, Section 347-45C4A, in that the proposed extended width of the second floor exceeds the maximum permitted dwelling width. Are taxes paid, and this is a notice in order?
Property taxes are current. Proof of publication was received, as well as affidavit of service.
Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Okay, state your names, address.
Javier Enrique Fuentes Jr., 422 Woodland Ave, Roselle Park, New Jersey.
And Ms. Fuentes, you're a registered architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
That is correct.
And your license is in good standing?
It is.
And your name and address, please?
Stephen Frech, 10 Windsor Place, Montclair, New Jersey.
All right, I'm going to swear Mr. Sharoon in. Also, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
State your name and position with the township.
Richard Sharoon, zoning officer and planning technician in the planning department.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to be presenting, I'm pretty loud, so I hope you can, I think it'll be fine.
You have to.
Oh, I have this one here, perfect, yes. I can do that. So, this is 10 Windsor Place in Montclair. We're just off of Highland Ave, and we have a single family that we're doing an addition for. We're doing a second-story addition for a master bathroom. Currently, this is a home that only, on the second floor, only has one hall bath that services for their two daughters and the applicants. So you can imagine an early morning for school, it's a little difficult. Right, so the addition is intended to have some real function that could really help this family, and we're looking at an area here that we are in an R1 zone, and for that reason, we are here for two variances that we're seeking. We have the side yard setback that currently the minimum requirements are 6 and 10. We're on the 10 side, and we have less than that currently. As it is shown here. Zoom it in. Perfect. Here we go. So you can see here, our existing, we have 7.84 feet for the side yard setback. And that is an existing nonconformity that we're building on top of. And so we're not looking to change that in any way, but it's an existing nonconformity. And also the building width, which the max is 65% of the lot width, and currently we're at 75.8%. And again, we're not looking to change that number, but we are building on an existing footprint, and we are existing non-conforming. So we're not looking to exacerbate that condition. We're not increasing the building coverage or building impervious coverage. We're just trying to use the footprint to the best of its ability. Now, in consideration of what the site is and what you're able to do, you know, from a zoning perspective, adding to the back and putting it in a certain way wouldn't require a variance, but it does have some site implications that's very specific to this site, and specifically the back of the property, which has these two beautiful big trees. Now, our concern from looking at this was that if we were to add the addition to the back, we would be impacting the tree root lines from this house that these trees have been here for years, right? And so with that impact, we don't want it to lead into a conversation where we would have to remove these trees that are beautiful, they're healthy, there's no need to change, you know, what's currently there, and we're trying to preserve that, right? So with these things in mind, I want to conclude that our hope is that you can consider the site conditions that the applicant has inherited and look at the application overall for the addition that we're doing here. in that we are building on top of the existing footprint. We're not exacerbating the conditions. We're just trying to use the footprint to the best of its ability, and with a little bit of practical engineering, be able to create something that can be functional for this home. With that, I'd like to open it up to the board for any questions and comments.
Folks, do you have any questions?
Not sure that I have a lot of questions, but, in terms of the building width, is that the original footprint of the house?
That's correct.
So, in terms of the design then of the master bath, right? Talk to me a little bit about what's gone into the design in terms of, I mean, basically, you know, when I sort of looked at it, I mean, it's a Dutch colonial, I mean, the original architecture of the property. This addition seems to, I mean, in one sense you could say it complements it, but in another sense you could say it really sort of deviates from it. So what's sort of the thought process in terms of the design of that and the enlarged windows?
Yeah. So, I mean, to the design, you know, in our intent, right, what drove the idea overall was that we have other examples of other properties in the area that the applicant has actually seen before, and that kind of drew the inspiration for what the applicant wanted to do here. And overall, with the design, you know, I think the perspective might be, you know, sort of in the wrong skew that maybe does not really show the full picture, and I think that's probably why it kind of looks a little off. But, you know, overall, we feel from what the style is, this isn't a very uncommon addition that we're doing, and it is going to be very functional for the home.
You have the chimney then is, how is that space impacted by the chimney? I couldn't quite.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a good question. So it is impacted from the interior, where we would need to encapsulate it, and that is the intent. You know, the design,
So that's
we
what that
would have
is.
loved to be able to put a double vanity, you know, it's kind of nice and wide, but in this case, you know, we don't want to disturb that, we want to keep it. So what we're doing is we're encapsulating it and then putting our vanities near that.
So when you're encapsulating it, meaning you're going to put drywall around it? Is that what you're going to do, or the bricks will be
Well-
exposed, or what are you?
So there's a little bit of code to that. We have to put a little bit of spacing, fire blocking. We have to protect it and make sure that it doesn't, you know, when we put in the new wood studs in place, it doesn't necessarily touch, so there's no interaction between the masonry and the wood. And also then from the interior, in order to create a really nice design for the bathroom, finish it off with with gypsum or ceramic tile.
And what is the flooring going to be? Because underneath is a,
There's an office space.
it's an office space
Yeah.
underneath.
Yeah, so currently, because it has a roof line and there's currently some ceiling joists there, the structure there is just not enough in order to just build right on top of it, so it would need to get replaced with proper joists and then finished with subflooring and have a nice mud bed for the ceramic tile finish.
And you're doing radiated heat flooring, radiated heat.
Yeah, hopefully if the budget allows, you know, we're looking to do that, yeah, for the applicant.
Outside of that, I mean, is that the code side of the house or something? Is that the reason why you're looking at radiated heat? I mean, not that I'm against it, I just,
No, sure, it just seems like it would be so nice.
Nice to
Like,
have
the
it,
house
yes.
doesn't have storm windows, the whole house is drafty, it's got steam, it's got great heat, but it's a real drafty house, and so this thing's gonna have whatever the R is on the walls, it's gonna be a little tight space. It just seems nice to have a radiant floor.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we would have to put, then we'd have to figure out how to put heat in there. We are gonna be able to take a vent, like air group came and told us, and they can take our existing, the second floor and attic have a system in it, so they can take one vent, so we can put an air conditioner in there with like, just by running a vent.
Mhm.
So we don't have to think of a heating system in there if we put
Okay.
radiant in.
Okay. Because it does seem to be, I mean, visually, in terms of based on the design, it looks like it's a rather substantial space for a master bath. Is that right? So it would be kind of airy.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. It's, that's the thing about a Dutch colonial, right? Like all the spaces are like this, and so it would be a space in the house that is not quite like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Barfield?
Did you think of maybe like pitching the roof, like an A-frame on that, on the top of it? I know you have windows there, but.
Yes, well, so are you saying from the interior, sort of like a vault ceiling?
No.
Oh, sorry.
On the outside.
On the
Yes.
outside. So the roof line, the one criteria, so I'm gonna share with you guys an exhibit that I think will help kind of tell the picture a little bit. You can kind of see it in the picture, but. So.
All right, we're gonna mark this as A1.
Yep. Thank you. Just a couple copies here. Just to share.
Thank you.
So, you guys have.
So we're just gonna call this a sketch that you prepared, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cross-section?
Yeah, so the section sketch that you're seeing here, our goal is to try to minimize the height of where that roof will impact because we do have these existing attic windows above. So we're trying to avoid touching that. You can see that in this picture, specifically up here. So our intent is to create like a hip roof style that we can put it into it to be able to minimize the pitch height that we're dealing with. Because if we were to go with, for example, a shed roof would push it off too high and it doesn't really fit with the architecture. And then if we go with a gable, we also have some limits where that height we would have to work with. So the intent is to try to avoid that height there so that for the existing attic windows.
So like from your drawing perspectives of that, like, will we able to see that like hip roof on the street level? Like, will we be able to see like an incline of the roof? Because this house has a lot of pitch roofs or roofs and stuff like that. It just,
Yeah.
your drawing just has like a flat top. It looks
It do-
a little
yeah,
out
I-
of place.
Yeah, and I know the perspective kind of throws that off a little bit. It's if you're standing down on the street, you may see it a little bit more because of the distance. But as you're stepping closer, it would be a lot less visible in terms of if you're standing sort of like on the sidewalk.
Can I say something?
Oh yeah, please.
The grade pitches down.
Downward, yeah.
This way, so you're walking away, you're walking
Yeah.
at the same.
Yeah.
Going at the same angle as the pitch or something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't reveal itself.
And yeah, on the drawing, gotcha. A question about, I've always had some thoughts about these things. So we're going to have a second story on that with tile, like the weight of that. Like, what's the concept of the weight on kind of the structure below it that doesn't really take too much weight? Like, how does that all work? Like, for an example, I had a friend had a shore house once, but they put this tile all over in their second bedroom, and then all the made
started
it out of
going.
whack. Yeah, the house had
Yeah.
to put new columns in and stuff. Like, why? I mean, like the
Yeah.
structure to the left is not sitting on any type of foundation wall. I don't think. Like,
Well,
how does that work?
There is some foundation on that, right, currently?
Yeah.
Now, but that is a good question, and that's why, when we're looking at this, we are going to be removing that roof and that structure that's there, because it wouldn't suffice. We would want to make sure that the design of that structure is properly handled to be able to support that. And yeah, the change from what it is now, right, which currently the floor that holds a roof load, snow load, wind, water, right, which does have a greater impact. When we're changing it now to an interior floor, that floor, we're gonna see some greater impact in terms of the dead weight a little bit, but not so, but we're gonna lessen a lot of the other stuff like the snow and rain load. And we would be the ones to calculate that to make sure that the spacing is adequate. And as far as like how big and wide that space is, we can easily achieve that with regular lumber, wood lumber.
And that's a crawl space, right, on that, that building sits on a crawl space?
Correct.
Exactly. Okay.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, all right, and you'll be facing south, I guess,
That's
okay.
correct.
Okay, so like, it's not like,
That's, this side
Yeah.
is east, right, like the.
that might be the north, actually. There's an arrow here on the survey. You will get,
North is towards the front.
yeah, you have a survey there, yeah.
So there's a survey, so we have a, yeah.
You get sun, so you will have sun in the wintertime, you're not gonna have frozen pipes or anything like that. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Church? Mr. Vieira?
No question, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask a couple real quick about this roof? This hip roof, so a hip roof would have 3 sloping sides?
Mhm.
Okay, so.
Correct.
And so the perspective drawing really doesn't, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, obscured.
Yeah.
So it would slope towards the driveway, towards the side, and then 2 sections, front and back, and kind of meet at the middle.
Correct.
And your cross-section exhibit shows a bit of an overhang, which is not shown on your 3D view.
Gotcha.
Would that, tell us about would there be a roof overhang? And
Yeah.
Do you talk about the gutters and the leaders?
Yeah, so there will be a little overhang
On all 3 sides?
on all 3 sides, just to kind of match what like it currently shows. Of course, the roof line here is different, but the intent is the same, right? Is to create that design feature that resembles that. So I apologize about the perspective that you're seeing there, but yeah, it's gonna look something similar to that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then following up on that, currently, at least the downspout that's visible from the current roof is going into the driveway. Where would the downspouts from the proposed roof, or how many would there be and where would they be located?
Yeah, so there's currently one in the front and one in the back. And with what we have for the gutter line that would be facing the driveway side, we would have them distribute into those gutter lines currently. So they would continue into from the same point as they distribute water now.
Okay.
Mhm.
The one in the back is invisible, but it would not appear then to be going towards the driveway, and then hence logically going towards the rear.
Yeah, you can't see it in this picture, so.
They do the same thing. They both come down the edge of the corner and the edge of the house, corner of the house, and they teeny little elbow and they go into the driveway.
Do you have an issue if they?
This picture, I think if we close up, on
The-
it, you can see this one, but you can't see the other one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
where I'm not sure it's going towards the driveway because it's not visible. But
I see.
my question is, regardless, these are going to be new because the existing roof is coming down and they'll be from, do you have a problem if they're directed into the vegetated areas in front of rear of the house versus onto the driveway?
Oh, no, in every opportunity that we can take to make it better, we would. Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from members of the board? Or just in case someone's hiding behind the chairs, are there any members of the audience who either have comments, statements, questions, anything whatsoever you want to say about the application? Now is your opportunity. Okay, is there anything further you wish to add before we discuss and vote on the application?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. McCullough.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, basically, I think looks like it's a reasonably good plan. You know, I wish that there was a way to make it a little bit more attractive, but I understand the rationale. in terms of the design. And yeah, so I guess I would say that I'm supportive of the application.
Mr. Caulfield?
You know, I drove by there, drove through the block. None of the houses have what you're proposing, which is kind of makes our life a little bit difficult. And then the architect kicked in the 2 trees there, and then, you know, throws everything out of whack in some way. So, I mean, I do see those giant trees back there. I don't necessarily want those to be affected, and we love our trees in this town, but, I don't know. I'm conflicted. I'm gonna say yes.
Mr. Church?
I'll vote yes on this application.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also in favor of the application. My first instinct was to ask you why not in the back, but I think you clearly explained why. So I'm in favor.
Okay. I'm also in favor of the application. I think, you know, we have traditionally approved variances that don't encroach any further than the existing house. We've usually questioned people as to why not a conforming location. I think they've demonstrated that based on the trees in the rear, and given that this will not result in new encroachment, I don't think will result in a substantial impairment of the zone plan or a substantial detriment to the public good. I think we should condition it on the stormwater being directed onto existing landscaped areas. Any further comments from members of the board? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
I move approval of the application with the conditions as stated by the chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Go do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. We will be meeting on December 6th, not December 20th. Besides the continuation of the one, we will have an application for Montclair, Kimberly, and their main high school campus, whatever you want to call it. That will not be small. We may have one, single-family type application.
What, for the high school? Baseball field?
No, much more exciting building.
Oh, building.
Okay. And
That'd be the 6th, right?
so, yeah. And if the two of you can start harassing board members that we need to really know now, because we need 7 for both of, the carryover.
Yeah, we'll start asking about that since it's coming.
I mean,
Real soon.
yeah, I mean, I'd say probably wait till after Thanksgiving, but maybe that Monday following, it's time to start.
Sure, yeah.
And I will follow up if you're not getting answers. There seems to be an issue with Mr. Moore's email, because I keep getting a bounce back.
Yeah, well, so he has an email listed with us that wasn't working, and I obtained another email that I've been using in the group messages. I didn't see you getting bounced. Maybe I'm including both emails, and one of those emails.
Okay, I guess delete the one that doesn't, because whenever I say I'll be here, I get a bounce back.
And he didn't respond, but he had called me, but yeah, so, we'll update that email.
Because I, want to make sure we're 7, and if you can ask Janice if she can have another conversation with the nice governing body about our need for reinforcements.
Yeah. Yes, I will. Okay.
And the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hope you enjoyed your first meeting.
I did.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Happy
happy
to all,
Thanksgiving.
yes.